We will have the anthems, starting with the Uganda national anthems. have a prayer led by Kichoncho Brenda from the National Youth Council. Brenda, kindly come up and lead us in a prayer.
Let's pray. Almighty God, creator of the universe and source of all civil authority, we acknowledge your majesty and thank you for the responsibility which you have entrusted with us to direct and orient the governance of youth for common good and benefit of all of us. Almighty God, we thank you for bringing us together and bringing this meeting together. We grant you beseech ahead that we deliberate on issues before us. Your divine wisdom will guide our counsels, that whatever we discuss, we may, and let your will, welfare of the youth be done. To glory of your holy name, we pray. Amen.
Together, can we say amen? Thank you very much, Brenda, for leading us in the prayer. May I request all of us to have their seat. Your Excellency, we warmly welcome you to this third Aprm Youth Continental Symposium that started yesterday with the arrival of different delegates, the dignitaries to this country, to Munyonyo Commonwealth Peak Resort here. Before you, Your Excellency, we have the Honorable Prime Minister, we have ministers in your government, we have different dignitaries, we have members from the AU, members from the Aprm secretariat, we have delegations from the European Union, we have many youth representatives from within Uganda and from around Africa, from the countries participating in the Aprm. We have people-to-people discussions. We have youth leaders, youth boards, youth committees. We have youth MPs. We have youth in business, religious organizations and NGOs. We have development partners. Many of them are all here. This conference is going to run for 4 days up to Friday, and we have already had a lot of discussions. We are soon going to invite the Sector Minister for Youth, Sarah, but Your Excellency, I'm working together with a colleague, Mildred Tuhaise. Allow me to invite Mildred to come and run us very briefly to introduce you to some of the issues that have been discussed as we were awaiting your arrival here. And then we will invite the minister to take over from there. Otherwise, you're most welcome, Your Excellency. The youth are very excited to see you and to see that you're very actively leading and championing solutions and discussions to find, solutions to their problems. Mildred, you're most welcome.
Thank you very much, Charles. You had to adjust that knowing that I'm more down to earth than yourself. All protocol observed, and we do welcome you, Your Excellency. Thank you so much. Just before you arrived, briefly, we heard an engagement and discussion. There was an intergenerational dialogue that was leveraging on the 1 Million Next Level initiative, which Your Excellency, you will be launching this afternoon. But we were particularly looking at the role that different sector players can be able to do, be it political leaders or the youth themselves. And key issues that did come through are matters of attitude accountability not only to the youth themselves, but also to the society, matters, agility, among others. And Your Excellency, one key statement that stood out as you get to speak to us this afternoon, the youth have agreed that this is not a time to lament and talk about the aspects that have failed, but a time to find solutions, and that is why this engagement is here. And as you love to read from the Bible, the Holy Book, the Bible, Your Excellency, I think we'll just wrap up by saying that we are done reading from the book of Lamentations. It is now time for us to read from the book of Acts. And to take on to our next speaker, Your Excellency, allow me invite our minister in Uganda, the Minister for State for Children and Youth Affairs, Honorable Sarah Mateke Nyirabashisi, to take us to the next session. Welcome, Honorable.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, the Right Honorable Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda, the Right Honorable former Secretary General and the Minister in charge of General Duties, Honorable Ministers who are here, Ministers of State, Members of Parliament who are here, Your Excellencies, the Ambassadors and High Commissioners that are here, distinguished officials from African Union, distinguished officials from Aprm secretariat, members of European Union, and the youth from the tax justice, development partners, officials from the government of Uganda, the NEC of National Youth Council of Uganda, the youth delegates, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure and honor to warmly welcome you to the opening ceremony of the third African Peer Review Mechanism, Youth Continental Symposium 2022. For all the delegates from the different countries represented here, welcome to the Pearl of Africa, right here on the shores of Lake Victoria. Your Excellency, I take this opportunity to thank you wholeheartedly for sparing time for these young people. Your acceptance to preside over this opening ceremony is a clear manifestation of your will and commitment to the issues of the young people and your readiness to always share your wisdom with them. Your Excellency, the African Peer Review Mechanism was adopted by the African heads of state and government as a systematic peer learning and self-assessment mechanism and has been hosting annual youth symposium aimed at involving African youth in the exchange of good governance, best practices, and peer learning. This is the third symposium which is being held here in Uganda. The first one was in Chad, the second one was in Kenya, and today we are in Uganda. The theme for this symposium is African Union at 20, repositioning the youth agenda for a transformative continent. This theme calls on the youth of Africa to redefine, rediscover, and reposition themselves to identify the amazing opportunities and choices that exist in Africa and the global networks through enhanced youth participation, innovation, skills development, networks, and market access. Your Excellency and distinguished guests, in the recently concluded Commonwealth Youth Forum, which was held in Kigali, Rwanda, youth resolved to take charge of their future, and governments committed to supporting their innovations and initiatives to create opportunities for youth development, realizing that the youth or the young people have the energy and potential to take charge of their future. The socio-economic development of Uganda and Africa as a continent cannot be achieved without strategic leadership. The importance of involving young people and a new approach to youth engagement in Africa could not have been more highlighted than portrayed in this symposium. Young people have continued to prove instrumental to Africa's national and continental growth and integration. Therefore, through constructive and participatory engagement, young people can become drivers and advocates of peace and development, not only in Uganda, but Africa as a whole. Aspiration 6 of the African Union Agenda 2063 calls for an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential of African people. This highlights the role of the young people in achieving set goals, especially the African Union's Agenda 2063 and the SDGs, which are very crucial. We must continue to ensure that young people are at the center of development. We must prioritize the meaningful participation of the young people in governance, and this is very important for ownership and inclusivity and youth engagement. If I take an example of Uganda, the participation of youth in matters of governance are very central to the government of Uganda. And this is a commitment which has been demonstrated by the policy and legal and administrative frameworks that have been put in place for the empowerment of the young people in all settings. For instance, in Uganda, we have youth structures from grassroots levels throughout, and which are very effective and have effective representation of all young people, right from the grassroots to the national level. In addition, using the affirmative action, Uganda has allocated 5 elective slots for youth members of parliament, for regional representation, and 1 slot for the female representation. It is important to note that in the current Parliament of Uganda, 23% of the youth that are there, of the members of Parliament that are there, are below the age of 35 years. All these are efforts meant for effective country. The youth of Africa are not only actors but partners in achieving the Africa we want. For a transformative continent, we must continue to create an interface between young people and the national governments on development and continuously engage young people, youth-led and focused organization. The government of Uganda is very excited to host the Aprm Youth Symposium and convene to many bright young African minds. As you look around, Your Excellency, you'll note that we have taken every single precaution against the still prevalent COVID-19 pandemic. These national efforts reinforce the Continental African Union COVID-19 vaccination Bingwa initiative. We also want to congratulate the African Union for successfully implementing the 1 million by 2021 initiative, which reached over 8 million young people with opportunities in education, employment, engagement, and entrepreneurship. And of course, even Uganda was considered. As the Commission implements the 1 million next level, which aims to accelerate the gains of the 1 million by 2021 to reach 300 million young people with opportunities in education, employment, engagement, entrepreneurship, health, and well-being by 2030. The government is pleased to collaborate with the African Union Commission to implement the 1 million next level in Uganda. If I take an example of Uganda, much as the 1 million is being launched today, government of Uganda has reached the youth in different spheres too. Under your leadership, Your Excellency, you have spearheaded a lot of programs that have put this population where it is today. Why we say that in Uganda, the population of the young people, 68% are the young people, it is because of the wise leadership of His Excellency, the President of Uganda. If you can recall, in the issue of health sector, he has promoted and continues to promote mass immunization against the killer diseases, and this, of course, has averted the child mortality rate, the prevention of mother-to-child transmission. If you go to education, free education, both at primary and secondary, which has brought good fruits, with many excelling in Uganda and abroad. And today, Your Excellency, we have two people who have excelled from UPE and now are in the diaspora, and they're here representing their friends. There is Mr. Rashid Kasirie and George Kamrasi. So UPE, the fruits are coming out. Your Excellency, you have also continued to empower our youth in different spheres, in entrepreneurship, in agriculture, and other innovations. And very soon we have rolled the parish development model, and I believe we are going there. The youth and the Ugandans today who are here, and the youth of Africa, during this symposium, you are going to interact with the African Union and learn more about the different initiatives, which calls on young Africans to be the champions on this continent, or what the continent requires of us. You are the building blocks in the integration of Africa on political, social, and economic issues. All these need to be emphasized. What you can do and what you can benefit together, that is the interest that we are looking at. And if we have to be strong, that means and develop and reach a united state of Africa, we should be stronger at this time, united, and have a respected voice by working together if we have to be respected in the international arena. We also call on all of us to be champions of the 1 million next level. Your Excellency and distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, our shared value partnership will be instrumental in ensuring that the youth of Africa reach their potential. Your commitment and investments will catalyze the successful implementation of the 1 million next level. I therefore wish to thank all of you, thank the African Union, the Aprm, Continental Secretariat, the government of Uganda, our partners, and the young people for making this happen. I believe this symposium is going to create safe spaces for young people to share knowledge and experience. Thank you for listening to me, for God and my country. Your Excellency, due to time, we are going to have few people who are going to present, each 3 minutes, and 3 minutes should be 3 minutes. One statement is going to come from Honorable Amara Kalon, the Deputy Minister of Political and Public Affairs and Deputy National Focal Point of Silarion. He's representing the chairperson of Aprm Forum of the Heads of State of Government. He's welcome to address us. Thank you so much.
Your Excellency, Yoweri Gakuta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda. The Right Honorable Robina Nabanja, Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda. Honorable Amos Lugolobi, the APR Focal Point of Uganda. The CEO of the Aprm Secretariat, Professor Eddie Maloka. Your Excellencies, colleague ministers here present, ambassadors, heads of delegation, members of parliament, colleague young people, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to stand on the existing protocols. Your Excellency, I bring you all greetings from His Excellency retired Brigadier Julius Maada Wonebio, President of the Republic of Sierra Leone and Chairperson of the Aprm Forum of Head of State and Government, and also from Honorable Ambassador Mohamed Fodeyum Kela, Chairperson of the Aprm Committee of Focal Points, and from the people of Sierra Leone. They express their best wishes to all the participants who have gathered here today to reflect on the greater role the youth can play to accelerate the complete and speedy achievement of our Agenda 2063. Permit me also to extend my gratitude and appreciation to the government and people of Uganda for their legendary hospitality, generosity of spirit, and impeccable co-organization alongside the Aprm Continental Secretariat of this third Youth Symposium here in Kampala. Moreover, I would like to commend His Excellency Yoweri Gakuta Museveni's government for according importance to youth and youth matters. I am elated to see that in this country, youth empowerment is given expression in a tangible manner. Indeed, the unit in charge of youth at the presidency is led by Mr. Daniel Obal, a young and buoyant man who has campaigned for the national age limit to run for presidency to be reduced. With a fast-growing population projected at 1.6 billion people in just 8 years, more expectations to manage unlimited resources to create decent employment opportunities. Africa needs to find permanent solutions to the ills the youth are harried by, whether these are related to climate change, youth employment, violent extremism, or financial illiteracy. The mainstreaming of youth agenda into national development plans and priority is now more than ever necessary. Investment in youth vocational education, training, employment, and entrepreneurship are vital elements of a prosperous, peaceful, and proud Africa, which should be supported by our development partners across the world. Africa's prosperity and stability matter immensely to itself, but also critically to the world at large. I am glad that the European Union mission into Uganda recognized this fact and decided to team up with the government of Uganda and the Aprm Continental Secretariat to discuss during this youth symposium issues concerning on both sides of the Mediterranean, such as disorderly and heart-wrenching migration and climate change. The financial support provided by the European Union Commission to Uganda for the organization of this youth symposium is a meaningful example of the kind of mutually beneficial partnership that can be forged between Africa and its partners. An Africa that values the youth in an Africa that is deliberately planning for this future. An Africa that grasps the fact that the fate of all age groups inextricably who are in leadership positions and inspires us to do more and faster. And intimidating because some of the youths among us today may be in the future become heads of state or government who will hire those whom they report to currently. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I see so much brilliance and boundless courage in African youth. In spite of the difficult circumstances which they live under, they persevere daily to reinvent the world and make it more humane. In civil society organizations, in religious organizations, or in startups, youth show us every day the power of networking and strategizing to tackle social challenges. There is no doubt that concerted group action drives tangible progress at the national but also global level. While this should be continuously encouraged and celebrated, individuals can and must also champion causes which will elevate ubiquitous issues. One of Uganda's own, Vanessa Nakati, has demonstrated through her relentless activism the perils of climate change which Africa bears the brunt of. Indeed, in recent years, regular drought, floods, and heat waves have ravaged places such as the Horn of Africa, Beira in Mozambique, and the province of KwaZulu-Natal in South Africa. Though climate change is more of a threat to Africa than other regions, Africans' perspective are seldom presented at international conferences. This needs to change. In COP27, which will be held in Sharm el-Sheikh, Egypt, later this year, will be an unprecedented opportunity for African voices, and especially those of the youth, to present the grim impact of climate change on Africa. African activists need to be more prominent in conversations on climate change for the cogent articulations of our realities as a continent. We elevate the global priority that our plight warrants. In my closing, ladies and gentlemen, I reiterate my thanks to the organizers of this Youth Symposium. The first two editions held in N'Djamena and Nairobi were action-oriented. Indeed, they concluded with action plans and concrete steps to be taken to create more space for youth to come together and formulate ideas that will up our good governance cadence at the continental level. I hope this third edition will be equally ambitious and adopt outcomes that will advance the interest of the youth on the continent. I thank you for your kind attention.
Another round of applause, please. The next statement, Your Excellency, is from the Ambassador of the European Union to Uganda, His Excellency Attilio Pacifici. Previously, he was a senior advisor for migrations from Africa to the Secretary General of the European Union External Actions Service, and he has worked in several countries in Africa. He's welcome. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, the Right Honorable Rubina Nabanja, Prime Minister of the Republic of Uganda, Honorable Ministers of the Government of Uganda present, the representatives of His Excellency Moussa Faki, Chairperson of the African Union, the African Peer Review Mechanism present, in particular the Chief Executive Officer of the African Peer Review Mechanism Secretariat, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I'm truly honored to be here along with the leaders of the government of Uganda and of the African Union to the third African Peer Review Mechanism Youth Symposium. We all have one common goal here today, to highlight how youth can contribute to development and to achieve the Sustainable Development Goals in Africa. Indeed, we are united in believing that young people should be given a stronger voice and the capacity to influence and steer the future of our societies. Youth have a major role to play. They are eager to learn and to help our societies to find innovative solutions to the many challenges and problems that we face. Youth seek and must be given opportunities, and they are key drivers of social changes. It is said that the future of the world belongs to the youth, and therefore youth must be given a chance to shape the future of the world they will be living in. In Africa, perhaps even more than elsewhere in the world, you have a crucial role to play. This is because of the huge number and growing number of young people in Africa in comparison to the total population. We believe it is crucial to provide youth space to participate in designing the policies that will shape the future of our society and also to implement those policies. Concerning the European Union support to youth participation, we see that youth voices are getting louder and keep gaining audience. We are acutely aware of the need to profit and to build on this momentum, and the European Union is fully committed to making processes. In particular, 2022 is the European Year of Youth, and the first Youth Action Plan in the European Union External Relations is being drafted. Last year, we established the first Youth sounding board consisting of 25 motivated young people from Africa, the Middle East, Asia, the Pacific, and the Latin America, the Caribbean, as well as from Europe. They will help us create a real, long-lasting change in how the European Union engages with young people in its development cooperation to build a better future, greener, more inclusive, and digital. As highlighted in the European Union Youth Strategy 2019-2027, we need to harness young people's motivation and energy for positive changes. We also want to make sure that stereotypes around gender and age will not hinder young women's participation, as women are essential partners in the development of policies and standards and implementation. At the same time, we recognize the increasing youth participation, that the increasing youth participation does not come without challenges. While an increasing number of young people are finding space to engage and are contributing to shape and develop a public policy, we still have a long way to go. Those participating are still too often from privileged sections of societies. They are well connected and they do not always reflect the diversity of young communities across the continent. On the European Union-Africa Union cooperation on youth, one of the objectives of the Africa Union-European Union partnership is to put youth at the forefront, give them a stronger voice, and include them in shaping our policies for a better future. In this regard, at the sixth Africa Union-European Union Summit of Heads of State held in Brussels in February this year, leaders presented their vision for a renewed partnership of solidarity, security, peace, and sustainable and sustained economic development, as well as prosperity for our citizens and future generations. In parallel to this summit, youth organizations from Africa, Europe, and the diaspora organized a Youth Day to exchange views on current challenges, and youth rapporteurs presented their key messages to the African Union and the European Union heads of state. The climate change crisis stood as the biggest concern, and in this regard, I want to recognize the advocacy role that Ugandans youth environmental activists are playing nationally and internationally. We must acknowledge and praise the efforts they have made, which complement very well the commitments made by the government of Uganda at the highest level to protect the rich environment and biodiversity of this beautiful country. Youth also advocated for intergenerational co-leadership and increased participation of young women through the establishment of quotas of young and women in public institutions. They also recommended that they should play a more active role in the design, selections, and implementation of programs. The summit was also a very timely moment to reflect on what has been achieved so far by the European Union and African Union partnership on youth, and an opportunity to step up our ambition and creativity. Actually, the African Union, European Union Youth Hub does exactly that. The Hub is one of the core products of the work done by the youth in the margins of the previous EU-Africa Union Summit held in Abidjan 5 years ago. Through the Youth Hub, young experts are involved in innovative pilot projects together with selected CSOs and hundreds of local youth. This has been a very successful experiment, giving young people a chance to become development actors in their own right. A new program actually is being created by the European Union and the African Union called Youth Lab 3. And this is in the making and is due to be launched before the end of the year. These are all excellent examples of a solid and active partnership, but of course, there is a long way to go, and we must do better together, much more and better. Concerning the European Union support, I will say a few words about it only. On youth, Uganda has been one of the highest demographic growth, has one of the highest demographic growth in the world, with over 70% of its population below the age of 30 years. Around 700,000 young people reach working age every year, with a major mismatch between labor demand and supply. the insufficient supply of workers with competencies, attitudes, and technical skills required by the private sector is also problematic and needs to be addressed, and as it affects the long-term competitiveness of the private sector companies in the international market. In this context, under the Sustainable Business for Uganda initiative, we launched a program to support skilling young or youth employment together with the Private Sector Foundation of Uganda. This program aims at ensuring that young graduates entering the labor market are equipped with adequate skills and attitude. One of its components support matchmaking between postgraduates and private companies operating in key sectors of the Ugandan economy, such as manufacturing, tourism, construction, and ICT. Job creation is currently at the core of our cooperation framework with Uganda. And in the next four years, the European Union will commit 170 million euros to support inclusive and sustainable growth and jobs under the Sustainable Business for Uganda initiative. In addition, and this will include new actions on skilling in creating decent jobs for young Ugandans. In addition to tackling youth unemployment, it is crucial also to ensure equal and meaningful participation of young women. I mentioned that earlier, and I want to re-emphasize it, and girls, by removing all barriers, including gender-based discrimination and unequal access to education, and by promoting sexual and reproductive health rights. Building on the successful European Union Spotlight initiatives, a new 60 million euro program will address the causes of girls dropping out of schools, particularly at secondary level, which includes pregnancies, early marriages, poor sanitary conditions in schools, etc. To conclude, Excellencies, I wish to thank the government of Uganda for having reached out to us, seeking support to complement Uganda's own efforts to host this landmark event. I'm pleased that the Minister sought support from a long-standing friend, and I can tell you, despite the very limited time we had, for me and my team, a positive response was just natural. We are here together, addressing issues and challenges that we both believe are crucial to our present and to our future. Thanks to this cooperation, Uganda is better equipped to host this event, and we are delighted to cooperate with the Office of the Prime Minister to ensure a successful discussion and deliberations of this third African Peer Review Mechanism Youth Symposium. Thank you very much.
That was not enough. That was not enough, yet you know that European Union really supported most of you to be here. Another round of applause. We need adequate skills to fill the job market. Your Excellency, the next speaker is Professor Eddie Maloka, the CEO of Aprm, Continental Secretariat, and before joining Aprm, he was the Special Advisor to the Minister of Foreign Affairs of South Africa, and also a Special Envoy of South Africa to the Great Lakes region. Professor Eddie Maloka, you're welcome to address the people. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Director of Ceremonies, Your Excellency, Yoweri Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, Madam Prime Minister, Honorable Robina Njamnabanja. I apologize for pronouncing your surname correctly, Madam. My dear brother, Honorable Deputy Minister Kalon, representing President Bio, the focal point of APRM in Uganda, Honorable Minister Lugolobi, Your Excellencies, Ministers, Ambassadors, we are here, focal points, our colleagues from Addis Ababa, members of the Permanent Representative Committee, heads of delegations, members of parliament, Honorable Lydia, who's the member of the panel of eminent persons of the Aprm, who's here and newly appointed, our youth envoy who addressed us earlier, our colleagues from the European Union, led by our dear colleague, Ambassador, who just addressed us, the AU Commission that is well represented by a strong contingent led by our dear sister who spoke to us earlier today, distinguished youth participants, led by our two young conveners, excellencies, who spoke to us earlier today, Lennon Monyai from the Aprm Continental Secretariat, jointly working together with our dear brother Daniel Obal in the office of the president here in Uganda. We really thank them for having brought us here today. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please allow me on behalf of the Aprm to first welcome you to this, the beautiful pearl of Africa, the Republic of Uganda. The hospitality extended to the Aprm team and all the international participants. I want to take this opportunity to thank the government of Uganda for hosting the third Aprm International Youth Symposium under the theme, the African Union at 20, repositioning the youth agenda for a transformative continent. My gratitude, Your Excellencies, goes to the Government of Uganda, Women, Gender and Youth Directorate of the African Union, the Africa Center for Disease Control and Prevention, International Organization for Migrants, IOM, the European Union in Uganda, UNICEF, GIZ, and Youth for Tax Justice Network, and all other partners for coming together and partnering with us in hosting this event. The efforts and dedication of all of you, all of us, our partners in preparing to receive over 800 young people present here today do not go unnoticed. Ladies and gentlemen, mainstreaming of youth in Africa's democracy and good governance is an area that we take seriously at the Aprm because of our mandate in the African Union family. Myself, I grew up in youth and student politics in South Africa, in our struggle and during our struggle against apartheid. It is indeed the might of the youth, the young lions of South Africa, who delivered a deadly blow to the monster of apartheid. The youth occupy an important place in the Aprm philosophy, methodology and processes, because without them, our efforts at strengthening democracy and good governance on our continent will be without a heartbeat and the energy we need. The primary mandate on youth affairs in the African Union system rests with our colleagues at the African Union Commission in Addis Ababa, who are well represented here today, Excellencies, through their strong presence. Our contribution as the Aprm is to ensure that our youth are present actively in Aprm reviews and that their issues receive the attention they deserve in our review reports and their recommendations. It is for this reason, Your Excellencies, that many of our national structures across the body of our continent have youth desks like we do at the continental level. During our reviews, we focus on youth as a constituency. Our national structures ensure that this happens, that youth issues are sustained in our efforts. I therefore wish to recognize the presence of our youth from our Aprm national structures who are here today. Some of our national focal points are also in our midst today because they lead on youth issues from the front. Excellencies, all of you, you are welcome. At the Aprm Continental Secretariat, we work with the support of our member states to empower youth and to bring youth closer to decision-making tables in the Aprm. I just wish to highlight some of the work that we are doing. Human resources of the Continental Secretariat has deliberately targeted young people, thus making the Aprm Continental Secretariat one of the organs on the African Union with the most useful staff. The team composition supporting this. The Aprm Secretariat has managed to set up a youth desk, leading our efforts in bridging the gap in youth participation in Aprm country reviews and programs. This process is still work in progress, and I hope by the next year that the youth desk will be fully operational. The annual Youth Symposium has become our flagship project, gathering after we successfully convened the first one in Jamena under the leadership of President Idris Deby in Chad in 2019 and in Nairobi in Kenya in 2021. We'll continue giving support to the Youth Desk to organize this annual event. The targeted review on youth unemployment conducted in the Republic of Namibia and its recommendations, which were subsequently included in the national development, was largely influenced by youth advocacy in the APRM process. And finally, as an example, Your Excellencies, the APRM Youth Toolkit to be presented here for young people's input is yet another milestone in that once finalized, we hope to review member states' governance on issues relating to young people. This toolkit will be used also in our APRM reviews. Excellencies, friends, this important gathering is geared to produce a set of recommendations and guidelines to advise governments to report on issues relating to repositioning youth agenda towards Agenda 2063's aspirations. I therefore hope will provide solutions and actionable ideas to improve the conditions of young people. I am confident that this gathering will provide insight on how we can start mitigating youth challenges and challenges facing our continent largely. I therefore urge participants to use this symposium to speak freely while also demonstrating tolerance and discipline to listen to others. We value your advice. We are here to listen, to be educated, and indeed to be guided. Dear African youth, the APRM is indeed your home, and we are working hard to make it a youthful institution. The APRM will continue its efforts in bringing young Africans closer to decision-making tables through facilitation of engagement between governments and its citizens. I assure you that your recommendations will be taken up through all APRM relevant structures, and of course we'll do our best to have them tabled before the APRM Heads of State Forum of Heads of State for all participating APRM member states for consideration. In closing, Excellencies, please allow me to congratulate His Excellency President Museveni, the government of Uganda, and the people of Uganda for hosting this third APRM Youth Symposium. I also want to thank all the delegates who have traveled from all over Africa for gracing this occasion. May the collaboration between Uganda and the APRM continue to grow and benefit our African youth. Your Excellencies, there is an African saying that what an elder sees sitting down, a young man cannot see standing on top of the mountain. Today, Your Excellencies, our youth are occupying both positions. They are seated as we see them, but they are also standing on the mountaintop. Let's listen to them. Long live the Republic of Uganda. Long live our youth. Long live the African Union. Long live Africa. I thank you.
Was that enough? I think we have exhausted the time we're supposed to use. So the other speakers who are going to come, please, let's keep the time. We were supposed to be having His Excellency Moussa Mahamat Faki, the chairperson of the African Union Commission, but she sent a representative, and I would request the representative to come. 3 minutes. Chidu Pemba, please come forward. Thank you.
Your Excellency, President Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, President of the Republic of Uganda, heads of delegation, Your Excellencies, if you may allow me to speak on a already existing protocol as I come back to the podium this third time around, on behalf of the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Moussa Faki Mahamat, who sadly could not be with us today, but sends his warm regards to you all. I'll speak very briefly, but first of all, to thank the government of Uganda for hosting the 3rd Aprm Youth Symposium, and to thank the member states that are represented here today who are showing their commitment towards building the Africa that we want for young people. We continue to advocate that young people must be seen, they must be heard and included in every process that concerns their future and particularly their needs. There's an increasing need for capacity building and skills development in trade, knowledge transfer, digital platforms, e-commerce, to name a few. And additionally, we cannot ignore the vulnerability of young people to unstable economies. We must continue to increase investments such as financing for startups, enterprises, and even mitigation strategies. We believe that budgetary reforms should be continuous, and key decision makers, the international community, regional organizations, need to advocate for practical budgeting processes that meet the needs of youth and ensure adequate funding of inclusive public services while raising awareness of important issues in their nations, inclusive of young people. I'll end with speaking on behalf of His Excellency, Mr. Faki Mohammed, to something that is very dear to his heart, and has requested that I convey this message as the Chairperson's Youth Envoy, that we must not forget the marginalized communities. As we speak about these issues and as we speak about young people, let us not forget about the young people in marginalized communities. Let us not forget the youth with disabilities, and let us ensure that when we speak about the solutions for Africa, for young people, it's indeed leaving no one behind, and it's inclusive of every young person across the continent. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency. As I wind up on this program, I cannot leave here without recognizing a few people. I want to recognize the Ambassador of Gambia to Ethiopia, His Excellency Ms. Gainaba Jani. Please stand up for recognition. His Excellency Rebecca Amoge Otengo, Ambassador of Uganda to Ethiopia, our own. The Ambassador of the Republic of Zimbabwe to Ethiopia, His Excellency Tangwa. The Ambassador of the Republic of Sierra Leone to Ethiopia, His Excellency Adekuli King. Your Excellency, I cannot leave here without recognizing the members or the NEC members of National Youth Council. Please stand up for recognition. The National Youth Council of Uganda, the NEC members. I haven't seen them. Are they here? Yes. And I cannot leave here, Your Excellency, without thanking Mr. Obal for spearheading I think that one can show exactly what I wanted to talk about. Your Excellency, let me take this opportunity to call my colleague, who is the focal point person, Honorable Amos Logolobi, the Aprm focal point person in Uganda, and the Minister of State for Finance, Planning and Economic Development in charge of planning, who is going to come and give his statement, after which he will invite the Right Honorable Prime Minister, who will also in turn invite you to address us. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Your Excellency, Yoweri Kaguta Museveni, the President of the Republic of Uganda, the Right Honorable Robin Anabanja, Prime Minister of Uganda, Honorable Lumumba Kasule, Minister in charge of General Duties, Office of the Prime Minister, Ministers of State, the delegations from the Aprm Continental Secretariat and from the African Union Commission, permanent secretaries here present, the Aprm National Governing Council members, Uganda, members of the European Union, the African Union, and the Youth for Tax Justice, development partners, representatives, government officials here present, the youth, the reason for which we are here today, members of the press present, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. On behalf of the African Peer Review Mechanism, Uganda, and on my own behalf as the National Aprm Focal Point, I would like to welcome you, Your Excellency, and all the participants to the third Aprm Youth Continental Symposium themed AU at 20, repositioning the youth agenda for transformative continent. Thank you, Your Excellency, for honoring our invitation. Let me take this opportunity to thank the Aprm Continental Secretariat for giving Uganda this opportunity and partnering with us to host this significant event. This has provided an opportunity for the country, Uganda, to share, and other countries, to share experiences and best practices on harnessing the demographic dividend by empowering the youth and creating an enabling environment for young people to be an integral part of our development. I wish to express our heartfelt gratitude to the European Union and the Youth for Tax Justice Network for the financial and technical support to ensure that the Youth Symposium is a great success. In the same spirit, I appreciate all the sponsored and self-sponsored youth for being part of this event and ensuring that the event is successful. Your Excellency and distinguished participants, as you are aware, the Aprm was established in 2003 by the heads of state and government of the African Union as a self-monitoring initiative to promote good governance in Africa. It is a mutually agreed instrument voluntarily acceded to by AU member states, and Uganda is among the 42 African countries that have so far acceded to this initiative. The aim of the Aprm is to foster the adoption of policies, standards, and practices leading to political stability, high economic growth, sustainable development, and accelerated regional and economic integration. This is to be achieved by sharing experiences like we are doing, reinforcing good practices, including identifying deficiencies, and assessing the capacity building needs of participating countries. Aprm promotes peer learning, which we are doing right now, and sharing through constructive dialogue and persuasion. Notably, the Aprm has prioritized youth mainstreaming as a critical element for building a prosperous, secure, and self-sustaining African economies. This is further in line with the aspiration of aspiration 6 of the African Union's Agenda 2063 that aims to foster an Africa whose development is people-driven, relying on the potential of African people, especially youth, where they are actively involved in decision-making in all aspects of development, including social, economic, political, and environmental. The third APRM Youth Continental Symposium, therefore, has provided an opportunity to the youth from all over the continent to interact and share best practices, as well as develop recommendations for empowering the youth to contribute meaningfully to the socio-economic transformation of their respective countries. Your Excellency, population trends in the last 3 decades highlight increasing percentages of young people in the African continent. It's already mentioned that over 70% of the population in Africa is under the age of 30. Whereas this creates an opportunity because of the potential demographic dividend from abundant labor force and the future demand for goods and services, it creates a challenge and a specter of missing the demographic dividend if the anticipated youth bulge is not well planned. There's need to empower the youth to participate in decision making through balanced investments in social and economic policies. As the national IPRM focal point for Uganda, and on behalf of the IPRM National Governing Council, whom I request to stand for your recognition, please, those are the members of the IPRM National Governing Council Uganda. I wish to affirm my total commitment with the NGC to ensure that the youth are engaged and adequately participate in the national APRM process. Once again, I thank you, Your Excellency, and distinguished participants for honoring our invitation, and thank the European Union once again, the Youth for Tax Justice Network, and the APRM Continental Secretariat for their commitment and for the financial support, and of course the government of Uganda. I wish you all fruitful deliberations for God and my country. May I now take the singular honor to invite the Right Honorable Robin Anabanja to address this gathering, and also to invite His Excellency, the President, to address us.
Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, the Honorable Ministers, Your Excellency, the CEO of the African Peer Review Mechanism and your delegation, Honorable Members of Parliament, the Permanent Secretaries, Ambassadors, members of the European Union, African Union, and the Youth for Tax Justice, development partners, our many guests today, the young people from across the African continent, both here physically and those following us online. Ladies and gentlemen, Your Excellency, I thank you for coming to officially open this symposium of the young people from across the African continent. I would like to first and foremost thank God for the gift of life to all of us after the 2 years of difficulty with the COVID-19 pandemic. Your Excellency, in this regard, I appreciate the African member states for taking measures to control the spread of COVID-19 and protecting lives. The lockdowns and the other measures we underwent were painful, but they were meant to save lives. Your Excellency, there are reports of resurgence of infections in a number of countries, and therefore, even when we are here, we should continue to observe preventive measures. Your Excellency, this is your meeting because it is you who directed all of us to organize it. Thank you for the support and guidance you have provided. from the time the idea of hosting this event were presented to you. Mr. President, we thank you for being a champion of the youth empowerment in Uganda and the African continent. To all the young people here and online, I'm pleased to join my colleagues in welcoming all of you. The theme for this symposium, as already articulated, is repositioning the youth agenda for a transformative continent, and this is timely to me and relevant. The statistics in Africa speak volumes about the need to reposition the youth and put them at the center stage of the development agenda. Repositioning the youth in Africa, therefore, means creating an enabling environment for younger people to be innovative and develop their talent. Repositioning the youth also means providing a platform like this one, where issues affecting the young people are shared, discussed, and solutions found. Your Excellency, repositioning the youth also means providing opportunities for improving livelihoods and jobs so that the young people can be independent and productive. In Uganda, Your Excellency, under your able leadership, Mr. President, the youth have always occupied a central place in our programs. For the visiting delegations, I wish to inform you that it was the idea of our president here and the NRM government that the youth representation in Parliament was introduced. And today we have 5 slots reserved for the youth in Parliament. We have positions at district council level and at sub-county level. Your Excellency, we thank you for that initiative. Your Excellency, but beyond the 5 slots in Parliament, because of the conducive environment for the youth participation in politics, our Parliament is generally a parliament of younger people, almost 60% and above. Your Excellency, the NRM government also introduced other youth structures from the village to the national level. And under the National Youth Council and these structures, a number of leaders have been trained and nurtured, and they are currently occupying responsible positions as ministers, as permanent secretaries, to mention but a few. A key element that has sustained the empowerment of young people in this country is stability, peace, and security of our country, which we have enjoyed for the last 35 years. Your Excellency, African countries must embrace peaceful coexistence. As you all know, without peace and security, you cannot talk about youth empowerment and repositioning. If you want to know this better, ask the youth or the younger people in places where there is conflict and war. Your Excellency, the NRM government, under your wise leadership, has also had a number of initiatives, as already articulated by my other colleagues, aimed at supporting the youth enterprises, such as the Youth Livelihood Program, Emyoga, the Youth Skilling Uganda, to mention but a few. Another element which we are emphasizing is education. An educated and skilled population provides the needed labor and innovation that help to create jobs. But we appreciate that even with these efforts, challenges remain, especially the youth unemployment. This has been worsened by the COVID-19 pandemic, where a number of our young people have lost jobs because some of the businesses collapsed. We must, as a continent, working with our governments, provide private sector and development partners, address this issue. Your Excellency, under your leadership, Uganda has now started a new program for improving the livelihoods of the 39% of our people who are still outside the money economy. This program places a special attention to the young people by dedicating 30% of the funds that will go to the parishes, to the youth of Uganda. I call upon our younger people to embrace and establish enterprises that can benefit themselves. Your Excellency, this conference is therefore very important because it gives us an opportunity to share best practices on what has worked across the continent. We should therefore be able to learn from one another and get better. Finally, I want to thank all those who have invested time, energy, money, and other resources to get this symposium to take place. I thank the young people for turning up here and also online. It is now my honor, Your Excellency, and privilege to invite you to speak and share your wisdom with these young people of the African continent. Thank you so much.
Sit down, please. Sit down, please. The Right Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Ministers, the African Union leaders from Addis Ababa, the youth delegates. I'm speaking to you as a former youth. Therefore, listen carefully to what you need to do if you are going to go far. Secondly, remember that the issues of the youth are not issues of biology. Because biology, youth is biology. But that biology can have youth who have got different ideas. Right ideas or wrong ones. When we were engaged in struggles, like you hear the professor from South Africa, we, the freedom fighters, were youth, but we had youth who had different ideas. Idi Amin was a youth. When we were fighting Amin was not an old person. He was a youth. But a youth with the wrong ideas. So therefore, I want to caution you, this youth. That is biology. The question is, what right ideas do you have? If you don't have right ideas, you run up and down and you will end up going nowhere. And it's not difficult for the African youth to find these ideas because they are clear-cut. Basically, you can put them in two categories. Category one is what is the mission of the African youth? What is their mission? Their mission in our time, but also in your time, and beyond your time, was two elements. Number one, how would you get prosperity? Prosperity for the African people, including yourselves. Because that's part of the problem. Poverty. Lack of prosperity. And all the elements that create it. Do you want Africa to be prosperous? Or do you want Africa to remain with all sorts of problems created by underdevelopment in a continent which is so rich yet so poor? And when you talk of prosperity, you are talking of really how do you become prosperous? By begging? Can you become prosperous by begging? If you are of that idea, which some of the youth who were with us were, because some of them believed like that Africa, by begging, what they were calling donors, that Africa would be all right. It's now 60 years since independence, and many parts of the country have not moved forward in spite of that aid and so on. That dependency syndrome. Our line with the youth who were not on the side of Idi Amin was that no, the only way to be prosperous is to produce goods and services and sell them. But in order to do that, you need a number of other things which I will talk about. So, the youth, according to our analysis, which is well written, must be in the vanguard of producing goods or services which they can sell within Uganda, if you are Ugandan, within Africa, and in external markets. Every youth should be able to produce or participate in producing a good or a service which he sells or which he or she sells. That's mission number one. How to create prosperity through the production of goods and services. Of course, it has got all sorts of other issues that go with it, which I may not have time to exhaust. Now, the second mission, is how to create strategic security in Africa. Because now Africa is the center of chaos now, today. What is happening in Mali, Burkina Faso, even Nigeria, Niger, sometimes Cameroon, some parts of Chad, Central African Republic, Somalia, Congo, DRC, all chaos. So how do we create strategic security? This is the second mission. For everybody, but starting with the youth, because you are the ones who have got longer to stay here on earth before you go to either heaven or hell, whichever. So, these are the two missions. Prosperity through wealth creation, production of goods and services, and strategic security. But then, if you want to produce goods and services, then you have a problem. Who buys these goods or services? Because if you produce goods and services, never mind the other issues which I don't have time to go into the issues of, because you cannot produce a good and a service unless you have got infrastructure, you have got electricity, you have got roads, you have got many other things which you need before you produce a good and a service, which of course you must put in place. But even if you do, you have the problem of where do you sell, who buys what you produce. Because you can get parts of the world, like the North America, which is comprised of two countries, United States and Canada, and Central and South America, which have got, I don't know, maybe 16 or so countries. Mexico's, Venezuela, all those, Colombia, Uruguay, El Salvador, some of them are very small, Guatemala and so on, Brazil. Now, in that continent, North America has been having prosperity for a long time now. Almost 1 century, living a nice life. The life now is not so nice. They have got some problems, but this is recent. Otherwise, they've been having a nice life. They overeat. While Africans are under-eating. Nice houses, vehicles, electricity, and so on. Neighboring in Latin America, South America, people are living in misery. You see them walking, going to the United States to look for survival. You have seen them walking, being pushed back. Immigration is a big issue. And yet, South America is one of the richest continents on earth. It has got all the natural resources, big forests at the Amazon, big rivers, very good land, minerals. Some of those countries have got a lot of minerals. Peru, what have you, even petroleum. But what's the problem? The problem is political organization. The way they are organized, being balkanized. Somebody should teach you that word. Balkanization. You have heard of some part of the world called the Balkans. Balkanization means small countries. El Salvador, Guatemala, I don't know what, Honduras, Costa Rica, I don't know what. It's not easy to be prosperous in those countries. Even if you produce a good or a service, if you don't have enough people who buy from you, you cannot become prosperous. So therefore, the mission of the African youth, if you don't want to be like the ones of South America, actually you are already like that. You are trying to go to Europe through Morocco, through where? In the Mediterranean. Then you start creating wealth here, but talking among you to create a framework for how that wealth can grow sustainably. And answer to that is market integration. The African youth, if you see an African youth, who does not talk about market integration in Africa, that youth is off the point. He will add no value. He will just be youth until you just become former youth like myself. Without adding any value. So, market integration. Because once the market is integrated, if I produce a good here in Uganda, or a service, and it is consumed by anybody who wants to do so, within the population of Africa now, which is now 1.6 billion a year, there's no way you can fail to grow, the business to grow, and by the business growing, you employ more people, you pay more taxes. Taxes are used to solve other problems in the country. Then we shall say that these are youth who know what they are doing. So that's mission number one: to create prosperity through market integration, in addition to whatever else you are doing. Then the second mission is strategic security. Africa needs to secure itself against all threats. We were colonized by 1900. The whole of Africa was colonized except for Ethiopia. That colonization was due partly to external greed, but also to internal weaknesses. Our chiefs and kings were so bankrupt, couldn't defend us. And the reason they could not defend us was egocentrism. Each one is a king, each one is a king, this one is a king. They can't cooperate among themselves. Putting on lion skins. When he puts lion skins, he thinks he's a lion. And the colonialists were not strong. The colonialists were not strong, and it took long. You can imagine when Vasco da Gama went around Cape Town in 1498, when he went through Mombasa and went to India. The first European to get to Uganda was 1862. Huntington Speak. This is almost 400 years. If you calculate it, 1498, 1862, I think it is 364 years, exactly. These Europeans were passing by Zanzibar, by Mombasa. Vasco da Gama actually attacked Mombasa, and information was coming that new people were coming. Let's organize ourselves to defend ourselves. No, the kings were just here, running around with the skins and so on. "400 years, they could have prepared themselves. But they needed to unite also, to work together. So therefore, and when we unite, there is no problem we cannot solve. All these little problems they are talking about, these are not big problems. Security, what have you. Bule too. Bule is a Swahili word for nothing, those who don't know Swahili. But because of lack of unity, what is small becomes big. I can illustrate to you, for instance, your professor there, Maloka. In 1963, when the OAU was founded in Addis Ababa, there were only 36 independent African countries that time. The other almost 20 were still under colonialism. When they met in Addis, our leaders, some who had some very good, strong leaders like Nkrumah and Nyerere and Gamal Abdel Nasser, Ben Bella and others, they said the whole of Africa must be free. At that time, there were still parts of Africa where the colonialists were refusing to give up. Mozambique, Angola, Zimbabwe, Namibia, South Africa, Guinea-Bissau. The colonialists were refusing to leave. our African leaders passed a resolution saying that those parts of Africa must be free, peacefully, but if anybody refuses, we shall remove him by military force. The Europeans laughed. What can Africans do? They just laughed. What can Africans do? Oh. The Africans, our leader at that time, formed a liberation committee of nine countries, which was based in Dar es Salaam. And that liberation committee coordinated with the anti-colonial liberation movements in each of the countries. Frelimo in Mozambique, Zapu-Zanu in Zimbabwe, MPLA in Angola, SWAPO in Namibia, NCPSC in South Africa, PAIGC in Guinea-Bissau. This was 1963. Exactly 11 years later, 1974, the African armies defeated the European armies in Mozambique and in Angola and in Guinea-Bissau. Total defeat. Not in my tribe, when you wrestle and you don't knock down the other person properly, they say you have fallen down like women. To knock down like a man, you must be down and you must be up. So the European armies were defeated, Chiman, in the manual way, totally defeated. In Zimbabwe, Ian Smith said he would be there for 1,000 years. 1,000 years turned out to be 15 years. He was gone. We had defeated him. So we defeated colonialism by force. All these problems are created because of lack of unity. That's why we cannot solve a problem like this, all these additional problems which are around. So therefore, secondly, you, the youth, the current youth, if you want to be of some value to your continent, you must deal with the issue of political, either unity or coordination among the African countries. But in order to do that, it's not a problem. Because because part of the problem is the way some of the people think. Because when they talk about Africa, they talk about, oh, there are so many tribes in Africa, so many what? No, sir, madam. The African groups are only in 4 categories by language, 4 linguistic groups. Group number 1, the Niger-Congo group of languages. All these groups from here all the way to South Africa and to West Africa, Southern West Africa, they are part of that group, the Niger-Congo, the Bantus and the Kwa. They are one group, one linguistic group. Then you have the Nilo-Saharan, like the Somalis, the Oromos, the peoples of the Nilotics of northern Uganda, northern Kenya, Congo, Chad, and so on. These are called the Nilo-Saharan. Then the Afro-Asiatic, the Arabs and the Amharas and Tigray. That is the third group. And then the Khoisan, the Bushmen, the one in South Africa, the small group. So the people we are asking you to integrate economically so that they work for their own prosperity and coordinate or unite or harmonize politically so that they guarantee their security are actually people who are either similar or linked. But because of ideological bankruptcy, all the parasites emphasize differences, tribe, this tribe, religion. And you don't counter them. You don't tell them that you, Satan, go away. You are useless. You are against my prosperity. I want a common market of Africa so that I can sell my products. Because me, I am a producer of wealth. I'm not a parasite. I don't depend on anybody. I depend on myself. All I need is a market big enough to support my production. So when somebody comes to tell me about tribes, religion, I say, Satan, go away. You are useless. You have no value to add. So therefore, in order for you to go from biology, youth, which is hiding reality, because some youth are confused, some. When Jesus was killed, he was a youth. Do you remember Jesus? Jesus, he was 33 years old. And he was killed by other youth. The Pharisees. So, don't hide behind youth. What is your ideological position? Are you for, we are not talking about just youth. Yes, youth is one side, but what is your ideology? So it is youth, it is biology and ideology together. That's how you get a forward movement. So here in Uganda, because we have been involved, the other day I saw them. Did you see that they were burying in Congo? They were burying the tooth of Patrice Lumumba, the tooth. Lumumba was a good leader in Congo, and he had been elected properly. But the traitors working with the imperialists killed him and dissolved his body in acid. Can you imagine? Prime Minister, the one who won a democratic election, he was killed and his body was dissolved in acid. But there was apparently a Belgian policeman who was nearby, and apparently Lumumba had a golden tooth. Somebody had put gold in his mouth. So this policeman kept the golden tooth and kept it, took it away. And then when he was dying, the Belgian policeman, when he was dying, he left the tooth with his daughter. Then later on, some people heard about it and they got it from her. This is the one they were burying the other day. When Lumumba was killed, I was already active politically, 1961. So all these years, we pointed out to the youth of Uganda that you people, if you want to deal with the two missions, the mission of prosperity and the mission of strategic security, you must have a minimum of the following ways of belief. Number one, patriotism. You must be patriotic. Patriotism comes from the Latin word padre or something like that, father. You must love your fatherland, whether Uganda or whichever country you are in. You must love it. Must be patriotic. You should not accept sectarianism in your country. Or many of these problems you hear in Somalia, clans are fighting in all these areas, Boko Haram in Nigeria, that they are fighting for God or something like that. That bankruptcy must be resisted and crushed. You talk sectarianism, we go against you. Because you are our enemy, you are enemy of our prosperity. We want Uganda to be united so that we can work on our prosperity within Uganda and in each of the countries where you come from. So if somebody comes talking about tribes, about religion, that's your enemy. Therefore, the answer there is patriotism. I discovered there's what they call, do we have some young people who speak French here? Do you have some of you who speak French? Are there some French speaking? Are there some? Stand up and I see. Français. Oh, comment allez-vous? Ça va bien? Sit down. Now, I tried to learn French more than 60 years ago. But I didn't go far. But I kept some words. Fermez la porte, ouvrez la porte. But one which I kept reminding is beaucoup dormir. Beaucoup dormir. That means you are sleeping a lot. Now, the good thing is that in Africa there is a lot of sleeping. Beaucoup dormir. And beaucoup dormir is also good in a way. Because when you are asleep, you don't know what will kill you. A snake can come in the house where you are and it will bite you peacefully and you die without knowing. That's also good in a way. But when you wake up, you start finding more facts. These Ugandans here, under some of their confused leaders, were beaucoup dormir. They were asleep. Tribes, religion. Okay. Thank you very much. Now, but as you talk about your tribes and your religions, can you produce some wealth for yourself? That's what our movement did. We started mobilizing them, and they started producing. They started producing. Now, and of course, because of the peace, production has gone up a bit. So they were producing, maize. Now they are producing 5 million tons. Within Uganda, they are consuming only 1 million tons. So there's a surplus of 4 million. Oh, there's a surplus. Market. Hey. Then we said, but we told you that you should be Pan-Africanist. There's a need for maize in other parts of Africa. That's what we are telling you. Some of the people were telling you, tribes, religion, for us, we are telling you, patriotism within Uganda, Pan-Africanism in Africa. That's what we are telling you. So now you are stuck with the maize. Who buys it now? Oh, to what Chariao? That's how they speak, the Ugandans. They're in no hurry. To what Chariao? Then the cattle keepers woke up. They were buying imported milk from Denmark, powdered milk. Then they would put in water and call it Uganda Dairy Corporation. So we organized them, they started producing milk. They are now producing 2.8 billion liters. But Uganda is consuming only 800 million liters. There's a surplus of 2 billion. So what do we say to the milk? I said, you tell me. Because you are talking about tribes. Let the tribes buy this milk. Let the religions buy it. No, you look for the milk. Oh, so you want me to be Pan-Africanist? Yes, we think Pan-Africanism is good. And so on. You can go on with the sugar. When these Ugandans have woken up and started producing something instead of door meal, they have now discovered that they need Africa. They need East Africa. So that's why, in addition to biology, you need ideology. And ideology, number one, our experience is that number one, patriotism. Love each of your countries. Don't allow opportunists to disturb, to divide your countries along sectarian lines. Secondly, love Africa, Pan-Africanism. Thirdly, you must change. You must become modern. Your families must become modern. You cannot go on with the pre-capitalist mode of life. You must build a middle class and a skilled working class. That's why we talk of socio-economic transformation. That's the third principle in our movement. Society must change. And finally, democracy. Democracy is very crucial. These military regimes like the ones here in West Africa are of no value because they are not accountable to anybody. So at least let the civilians be there and fail and they are voted out. It is much better than having these ones who are accountable to nobody. So therefore, two things for the youth, because you are the ones who invited me. Number one, the mission. Prosperity and strategic security. Number two, the ideology. Patriotism, Pan-Africanism, socio-economic transformation, and democracy. Then you can talk about the other issues, the tactical issues you are talking about, how to do this, how to stand up, how to sit down. Those can be possible if you have got a secure framework where you can do what you are doing. The countries which are coming up, like India is coming up. It's a huge market. If I was in India now, I would be a billionaire, because I would produce a product and it is consumed by 1.4 billion people. China is coming up. China has overtaken all these little countries, England, all those, they have overtaken them. They are only now second to the United States. Why? Because of the market. The size of the market matters. So therefore, youth, biology and ideology, merci beaucoup.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for the wisdom that you have shared with the young people, including the principal youth, like you have said, the former youth. That was not enough. Another round of applause. Your Excellency, before we wind up, you are supposed to be launching or signing a dummy. But before we do that, I would request Madame Prudence from African Union to come and give you a brief, just 4 sentences about what we are going to launch, after which you will sign. Thank you. Madame Prudence.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. All protocol duly I don't know, I can't.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we do apologize about that. There was something here. It was a snake, definitely. But we are now safe, so we can all settle and get back to the end of our program, please.
Thank you very much for that. And again, sorry for that. Your Excellencies, all protocol duly observed. Again, just to give a bit of a background on the 1 million by 2021, no, the 1 million next level, it all started, I'm happy to be joined by the envoy for youth. Okay. I should. We should wait for the president to come back. Oh, okay. No, I'm scared. This one also.
Yeah.
All protocol duly observed. Your Excellency, the President of the Republic of Uganda, I am joined by the Youth Envoy, the AU Youth Envoy of the Chairperson on Young People. First of all, I've been asked to introduce the initiative, the 1 million next level. But before I do, also just to introduce myself, my name is Prudence Nongululego Ngwenya. I'm from the beautiful Kingdom of Eswatini, and I represent the African Union Commission. I'm the acting director in the Women, Gender and Youth Directorate. The story of the 1 million next level started in 2019 when we challenged His Excellency, the chairperson, to say we need to start doing concrete things for young people, and I'm really happy that you spoke to some of those concrete things in this gathering today. He launched the 1 million by 2021, which was basically himself putting himself up and putting himself in an accountability to say that by the end of my term in 2021, I want to have reached 1 million young people across the continent on concrete opportunities. These are the opportunities that some of them you spoke about. And I'm happy to also announce that at the end of 2021, in the true spirit of accountability, he came back on the sidelines of the Heads of State Summit to actually give a report of how he had fared with the implementation of the 1 million by 2021. Again, happy to say that at the end of 2021, we had reached 8.7 million young people across the continent with opportunities in education, employment, entrepreneurship, the market situation that you are speaking about, and business development services, as well as engagement and education. Education, employment, entrepreneurship, and engagement. What that taught us at the end of 2021, when we had reached 8.7 million young Africans, is that we really scratched the surface. We needed to do more, and we needed to intensify our efforts. This is why, as part of that initiative, he also then announced the 1 million next level. This is really an initiative to say, we have learned from 1 million by 2021, and we want to take it to the next level. So the 1 million next level is really intensifying all of those efforts. But we also learned that reaching young people on the 4 E's is not enough. And we added an H because these are some of the things that we learned from the young people. So 1 million next level is about bringing concrete opportunities to young people around education, employment, entrepreneurship, youth engagement, as well as health and well-being. I am very excited to stand here and actually congratulate the government of Uganda for all the things that we've had today and things that we know are actually happening. And I'm happy to say that 1 million next level is also not new in Uganda, because we've had so many things that are actually aligned to the pathways of 1 million next level. His Excellency spoke about the ideology, and I think this is really the spaces that we want to create for young people to have conversations around the ideologies that they hold in advancing the continent. But it's also, are you holding the ideology that is pulling us back or the one that is taking us forward? But I am happy to say that Uganda is one of our pathfinder countries in terms of advancing the youth development engagement work on the continent. And we know this because we hope also, because we know this, we know because we've heard today that there's very vibrant youth engagement and youth participation mechanisms. We also know that there's a very vibrant mechanism for engaging with civil society. We also know about the National Youth Council, vibrant group of young people that have had the opportunity to interact with that are also in the lead in terms of youth engagement on this country. We also learned about the 5 slots of youth MPs, and these are some of the things that are really important and that speak to the 1 million next level. And lastly, and most importantly, we really applaud you, Your Excellency, for the role of even having a presidential advisor who is a young man and who has actually been working with us closely and who's also worked in pulling all of this together. Now, Uganda is obviously our pathfinder country. We want the 55 member states in the continent, and we want all of them to learn from the lesson of Uganda. So our responsibility going forward is really to come here and say, we are committed as the African Union Commission to work with Uganda, first of all, to take and advance the 1 million next level, but also to bring Uganda to the other 54 member states. And I know Namibia came today through my sister Desiree to say Namibia wants to follow the footsteps of Uganda. So we're already beginning to influence the continent, and we want all 55 member states to come and say, at the national level, we're going to do 1 million next level, and we want to do concrete opportunities, bring concrete opportunities to young people. AU is committed to work with the country to effectively domesticate 1 million next level, as well as foster experience sharing with other member states. I really want to thank you all, and also thank the young people who are here to witness this big event for us. Thank you.
In the class, they say, question. Who was this president of the 1 million? Who was the chairperson that time?
It's the chairperson of the African Union Commission, His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed.
Oh, Muhammad?
Yes. Yep.
So he wants us to challenge him or what?
Actually, he wants to reach 300 million young people by 2030. The challenge, he didn't ask me to say this, the challenge is...
You want my contribution?
Your contribution is towards...
I will also see how to reach 1 million in the coming year.
Thank you very much. We would really love that. Thank you.
Although I have reached more than 1 million, but this one is these are millions within Uganda. But we can work to reach the 1 million in Africa, in other parts. You are from Zimbabwe?
From the beautiful kingdom of Eswatini.
Eswatini. Sawubona.
Yebo baba njani.
The Siabong.
Thank you.
You see, like that girl. These people, her group, and Professor Makoka, they are all migrants from here.
We are coming back, Your Excellency.
They are all diaspora from here. But when they left with the old words, like Saubo, like Kubona. Kubona, that's how they greet, all of them, even the Zulu, Saubona. They greet like that, meaning Ukubona is to, in their version, is to see. I have seen you. But here, we have the same word, but we are no longer using it to mean to see. We now use it to mean to find something that was lost. Nachibona. I was looking for something which was lost. I have found it. Saubona. Do you have the group of Dumera? Are they here? Dumera, the Tswanas and all that.
Botswana.
Botswana and Lesotho. And Zimbabwe, Mascati.
Makadini yenyu.
and Zambia, Muri wanje. Muri wanje. Na kuna Waswahili hapa? Waswahili wako wapi? Wasimame niwaone. Waswahili wa Kenya na Tanzania na Burundi. Asante sana. I can go now. Am I a free man now?
Your Excellency, you are about to be free. Your Excellency and our delegates, present among us is the Honorable Kasule Lumumba. I thought I should introduce her. Please stand up for recognition. We also have Honorable Lydia Wanyoto. I also feel like I need to introduce her. Your Excellency, let me now take this opportunity to invite you to launch the 1 million next level initiative.
Your Excellency, as you start the signing of the 1 million next initiative, may I invite also the dignitaries whose names I'm going to read to join you to sign. The Right Honorable Prime Minister, the Honorable Robin Anabanja, will also sign. I want to invite the Right Honorable Justin Kasule Lumumba to also move forward and sign. I want to invite the Honorable Amos Lugolobi to also come and sign after you, Your Excellency. I will also invite the Honorable Sarah Mateke, Obal Daniel, Ambassador Rebecca Otengo, Miss Prudence Mwenya, AU visitors, AU? Miss Chido Mpemba, Miss Kanyesi J. Masi,
Honorable Amara Kalon.
Honorable Amara Kalon, join the signing. The CEO of the Aprm and Ms. Kichoncho Brenda. Kindly, those persons, those dignitaries whose names I have read, kindly join His Excellency to sign the Uganda 1 million next level initiative. Honorable Ambassador Rebecca Otengo, you are supposed to join the team to sign. Miss Daisy Mathias, join the team to sign as well. So what we do, we continue. Let's have the Prime Minister. To launch. We didn't need it. Honorable Prime Minister can. We break for lunch, yeah? At where?
Maybe the photos can be taken now because the Prime Minister and the Excellencies.
What do we do for the young people? They wanted a picture with the Prime Minister and the PM before going for. Okay. Where is the lunch? Victoria? Okay. Oh, okay.
This is my suggestion.
First listen. Honorable delegates, the next item after the photo opportunity is going to be lunch. The lunch is going to be in the tent ahead of us there. But we are going to right now have a photo opportunity with the Honorable Prime Minister, and I'm going to invite my colleague Mildred to read the names of delegates who should come and have the photo ops with the Honorable Prime Minister. Mildred, please.
She's still in an interview.
No, you do it, just announce.
All right. We'll have the Right Honorable Prime Minister, who is concluding with her bites right now with